importance of healthy microbiomes. And this can all help you somehow. But my first question to you, Shelly, is what is a microbiome?
So this has
become such a big word.
Yeah, this has become my pet interest lately. It's an amazing thing. So technically, when we talk about a microbiome, we're talking about all of the microbes in our environment. So that would include things like bacteria, yeast, viruses, parasites, spores, but also all of the genetic information that they contribute to our environment. When we're talking about a microbiome with respect to health, we're talking about our more local environment in terms of our gut health.
Okay.
And all of the things that comprise a healthy gut. So the two are very interconnected because we acquire our internal microbiome from our environment, and that starts right at birth. And it's sort of foundational to a lot of aspects of health and development.
That sounds really cool, actually.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And because we acquire our microbiome from our environment, everyone's sort of internal environment is like a fingerprint. It's a little different for everyone. The difference is between that and our sort of genetic material is our microbiome changes as we grow and as our environment changes to meet our needs differently.
And so this all connects with how we digest and why sometimes things bother us and they don't others, and also to how sometimes you'd be fine having something like dairy, for example, for no problem, and then all of a sudden you start having problems with that. Is that because that microbiome is changing?
So it's because it's changing, and it's, you know, we all recognize sort of the importance of gut health in terms of digestive capacity, but it's really tightly connected with our immune function too. So this is a really big topic. So we're going to sort of split it into two sections and talk about, you know, leaky gut, because the purpose of that nice, thick, healthy microbiome that's created by a combination of mucus and probiotics, which are healthy bacteria and immune factors and soil-based organisms. It's very dynamic and it's very selective, what it allows through into our circulation. So we are literally a walking ecosystem.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. So because we have this really selective barrier in our gut, when that becomes unhealthy, we see increases in intestinal permeability, which people will refer to as leaky gut. And that's going to be the topic of sort of our part two.
Yeah, so we're going to have you come back on to talk specifically about leaky gut, because it's such a big topic to talk about. But what are some of the things that we can incorporate into our lives to ensure that we have a good system going on?
So we try to mimic sort of what our body is trying to create down there. So we can use things like probiotics, which we have talked about a lot. And I encourage people, you know, we have 10 to 100 trillion bacteria in our guts. Many different strains. So I tell people, buy probiotics that have a wide variety of strains, and when you're finished that one, buy a different one with different strains. The other things we can use are sort of demulcent herbs that help to create that mucousy, sort of mucilaginous layer in the gut that helps with healing. We can use things like glutamine, which are a primary amino acid in our gut, and help with healing. And then, of course, you guys are going to get sick of me bringing fish oil. I feel like I bring it all the time. Helps with the inflammation associated with a leaky gut.
And it's really smart to have those things. I mean, you've brought up a few times in the past that the three things that you say are key: vitamin D, probiotic, and omega-3.
Right.
Right. And you actually need the vitamin D to absorb, or vice versa, the the fats to absorb vitamin D.
Vitamin D absorption, absolutely.
So these are things that we can incorporate. And so what are the things that we need to know whether or not we should be?
So part of the problem that we have now with sort of modern lifestyles is we have a lack of a healthy microbiome in our environment. So we're not really exposed to the same bacteria and spores and stuff that we used to be exposed to. We live in a built environment, highly industrialized, highly over-sterilized, so we're not getting the exposure to those healthy bacteria. The other problem tends to be with the overprescribing of antibiotics, which we are really moving away from.
Right.
And sometimes it's unavoidable, sometimes it's necessary, and if that is necessary in terms of treatment, then make sure you're putting your healthy bacteria in. And the other problem is we tend to consume very highly refined diets, very high in sugar. You know, they're highly refined. There's very little soil-based organism exposure anymore in our diets, very little bacteria, and we also tend to eat a very inflammatory diet.
So some of the things that we could do And I love this one, is play in the dirt.
Play in the dirt. This is going to
we want to expose ourselves to
into
this
the
stuff,
next
right?
segment.
Yeah, it will. We do our gardening segment with Claudette.
That's right. The problem, maybe not city dirt, right? But because of this highly industrialized built environment, we are not, our children are not playing in the dirt. They're not exposed to those soil-based organisms. I try to encourage people, if you're buying organic produce, don't overwash it. In nature, we used to be exposed to a huge amount of microbes on the food that we ate. Yeah. And we don't get that exposure anymore.
And fermented foods, we've talked how good they are for us, as well as bone broth. That's
going to be the topic, part of the discussion with the leaky gut,
which is
piece
great.
in part
and
two.
It's easy to make yourself. We'll give you tips on that down the road too. And then avoid, as you said, the antibiotics if possible, because sometimes you have no choice, but try to make that kind of your last resort.
When we were kids, right? Yeah. Everybody got antibiotics for everything.
I know.
Right? So we are really moving away from that. And if you have to take them, just build up the gut with those fermented foods, bone broths, probiotics.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Shelly.
Yeah,
so we're going to have you back in a couple weeks to talk about the leaky gut issue. So, it's something now to keep in mind. So here's for more information for Full Circle. You can call them at 905-930-7769, fullcirclehealthcare.ca. They're located at 131 Upper Centennial Parkway. It's Full Circle Healthcare and Supplements. Really cool information. Microbiome. We learned something.